good morning. Today, well, first of all, I actually, before I forget, I do want to talk about next class, okay? So next class on Tuesday, right? Yeah, on Tuesday, I will be enabling the reproductive system test for you. I will be opening it up for you guys at the end of the day on Tuesday, okay? Keep in mind, it's a one and done test. Take it one time, that's it. It's also a timed test, 30 minutes. So here's what happens. If you've taken notes and you've done the reviews and you've been in class, right? You've done all of your assignments and you have your notes. This test should not take that long. If it's taking you way, way, way longer, and I'm not talking about people who might have accommodations, that's a separate story. But if it's taking you way, way longer, like last class, like the last test we had when I got a bunch of messages from people saying, oh, it ended, I didn't have enough time. It's probably because you didn't have notes, you didn't write things down, and you were probably Googling answers and you just didn't have enough time to find the answers. So make sure, that you go back, if you still have no notes, that you go back to the days that we did that, and it's in Schoology. And also you can always go back to the guides folder where I kind of do that for you as well and look through some stuff. And like always, and I'm going to go over this again on Tuesday, but like always, you're going to have about a week to get it done. But I just wanted to give you a heads up now so that you guys will be prepared. Also next class, I'm going to be answering the anonymous questions. This is the day that everyone in the past have enjoyed. So if you haven't yet maybe asked a question, or you still have a question that you're interested in that you haven't maybe gotten around to ask anonymously, remember, I won't know who it's from. Go on there and make sure you ask it. It's right on Schoology. Scroll down, it says anonymous questions here. So you click that and it'll take you to the Google form, okay? All right, so today we are going to talk about childbirth. And don't worry, I'm not showing you a video. If you go into Schoology right now, you're gonna open the first assignment, which is childbirth. And much like last class, no, not last class, that was Wednesday. So Monday's class, we did fertilization together, where you guys answered questions. Over your nose, please. And we're gonna do the same thing with childbirth. There's a lot more involved, a lot more words, a lot more stuff. I'll be writing it, I'll share my screen. I'll be writing it on the whiteboard here and also for the Zoomers at home. So one thing I'm gonna ask you guys to do is when you're writing down the answer, pick one color for all of your answers, one color. Not one color for each answer, just one color, whether it's red or blue, and just highlight the color or your answer, or make that answer a certain color, just so that it's easier for me to grade. I can go through it a lot simpler. And if you don't do that, it's just gonna be me really, really checking, and I'll have to go a lot slower. So just pick a color like red, and all your answers, just once you write the answer in, you can just highlight it and change it to that color, okay? Any questions? Are we good? So is everybody on the assignment? Anyone need more time? We're good? Okay, here we go. And this is definitely more of a storyline. One thing before we start reading, somewhere in your notes, whether you use a Google Doc for your notes or if you have a notebook for your notes, I would get that out real quick, just so there's 3 things you're gonna write that has to do with childbirth. There are 3 stages to childbirth, or 3 stages of pregnancy. And you have to know what 3 stages they are. And having this written down will be so much easier for you guys on your test. You don't have to go to this assignment and like look through and try and find this, okay? So there's 3 stages, and we will go through it, and I'll let you guys know what to write as we get into that. All right, so here we go, childbirth. After approximately 9 months, that's actually 40 weeks, so it's technically 10 months, but it's fine. After approximately 9 months of warm, safe, quiet growth inside the mother's womb or uterus, the time of birth arrives. At that moment, the baby's head is usually down, ready to press against the openings of the cervix. If I could spell. And again, you can wait until the end to change the color if I'm moving too fast or if you just don't have enough time. You don't have to do it right now unless you have time. The baby's head has been floating in the amniotic fluid all this time. The fluid, sometimes called the bag of waters, has acted as a shock absorber in the case the mother falls or is being bumped during pregnancy. The placenta, an oval mass of tissue containing blood vessels and blood-filled lakes, develops in the uterus during pregnancy. It is connected to the baby by the umbilical cord. Anyone know what the umbilical cord is connected to on the baby? Where? On the stomach, you're right. Belly button, that's what the belly button is. Good. This flexible structure contains 3 blood vessels. One of these transports nourishment and oxygen from the mother's circulatory system. The other 2 blood vessels in the umbilical cord carry waste products from the baby's bloodstream to the placenta. There, they are transferred to the mother's bloodstream and eliminated from her body. So it's not like the baby poops, right? Not yet. But the baby does pee and drinks it. It's true fact. And you're all saying, ew, but guess what? You all did it too. So did I. Yeah, it's gross. The placenta acts as a screen so that the blood of the mother never directly mixes with the baby's blood. However, it is still very possible for the mother to pass addiction to certain drugs and diseases onto her child. Since the moment of conception, what's another word for conception?
Fertilization.
Yes, good. Since the moment of conception, the mother's uterus has expanded over 20 times its original size to accommodate the growing new life. Hence pregnant women's big belly, right? The uterus is completely surrounded by 3 sets of strong muscles and is securely attached to the pelvic bones with strong, and before I say this, let's see if we remember from the muscular system, okay? Surrounded by muscle, which is attached to the bone. What attaches a muscle to a bone? Who remembers?
Tendon.
Tendon, yes. Yes. So the uterus is completely surrounded by 3 sets of strong muscles and is securely attached to the pelvic bones with strong tendons. Good. Labor, the pre-birth process, begins when the mother's glands slow the production of progesterone, the protective hormone of pregnancy. This is the signal for the 3 sets of strong muscles to begin to contract rhythmically from the top of the uterus. And this happens with no effort on the mother's part. These contractions press her baby downward so that eventually the head presses against the openings of the cervix, which has been plugged with a thick mucus plug during most of the pregnancy. These contractions press her baby downward so that eventually the head presses against the opening of the cervix, which has been plugged with a thick mucus plug during most of the pregnancy. This plug is forced out by the increasing pressure of the baby's head during the uterine muscle contractions. This plug is forced out by the increasing pressure of the baby's head during the uterine muscle contractions. This movement usually causes a show of blood. Not always, not everyone. An indication that labor is in process. Finally, the opening of the cervix is large enough for the baby's head to come through. This causes breakage of the membrane, which held the amniotic fluid. The bag of waters is punctured and the fluid no longer escapes. Thus ends the first stage of labor. So what does the first stage of labor sound like? Give you a hint, starts with a C. Contractions, yes. So remember I told you there's 3 stages of labor. So the first stage is contractions. Now, based on what we read, does a mother have any control over these contractions? No, although I'm sure she wishes she did. No control. And what did we learn was another term for that in muscular system? Involuntary. Good. So what you're going to write for the first stage of labor is contractions, and it's involuntary. Moving on. The first stage may only take a couple of hours, or in the case of a first pregnancy, it can last much longer. It can last much longer whether it's a first pregnancy or a second or a third, but like my friend, 28 hours, it's crazy. Now begins the second stage of labor. Now begins the second stage of labor, which is usually quite brief, sometimes a matter of minutes. No, not always. Sometimes that could take hours too. As the baby's head passes through the opening of the cervix, it enters the, what comes after a cervix?
Vagina.
Vagina, good. It enters the vagina or birth canal. We learned that when we went over the female reproductive system, that birth canal is another term because of birth. So as the baby's head passes through the opening of the cervix, it enters the vagina or birth canal, an elastic organ which expands to allow the infant's body to pass through to the outside world. During this second stage, the word labor begins to have a real meaning. For the mother must work and push with all of her strength to bring out the life within her. Now, at long last, the miracle of birth is actually taking place. Okay, pause for a minute. I can't read the chats while I'm doing this. That's why I always ask you guys to just unmute yourself, let me know. Okay, so I just now was able to read some stuff. So I'm not gonna go back up yet. There's been a few comments here and I really wish in the moment you would have just let me know, because I'm just watching people in front of me to see how they're doing and I'm kind of gauging it that way. But if I'm going too fast, you know, you really have to let me know in the moment and I can absolutely help. At this point, I'm not going to yet, but like I said, two things. One, this will be in the guides folder, this exact thing, the order list. Two, you're also gonna have the Zoom recording to look back at any point. And three, if we get done what we need to do today, I can absolutely go through this and reread whatever anybody missed. So I don't want anyone to feel like they have to send it in right away and like they're gonna get a bad grade. So don't worry about that, okay? So let's just finish what we have and hopefully we'll have enough time later and I can help you out. Otherwise, Zoom recording and these notes will be in the guides folder, just like I always have the notes in there for you guys after class. Okay, push with all her strength to bring out the life within her. Now at long last, the miracle of birth is actually taking place. The head emerges from the birth canal. One shoulder, then the other, the arms, and finally the entire baby. This is a moment of dramatic transition. Up to this point, this tiny human being has never breathed for himself. His lungs have been collapsed. He has never swallowed food. His digestive system has yet no function. He has never eliminated for himself. But now at birth, the baby will take his first gasp of oxygen and cry. He was pale, but now he will turn pink as his newly functioning circulatory system takes over. He was pale, now he will turn pink as his newly functioning circulatory system takes over. So what is the second stage all about? Yeah, delivery of the baby, okay? So for second stage, delivery of the baby. And what did this sound like? Was the mother in control? Did she have to work for this or did it just kind of happen? What do you think? Huh? Yeah, she had to work, she had to push, right? So it's voluntary. Okay, second stage of labor equals delivery of the baby, which was and is voluntary. Sometimes baby requires encouragement to breathe and cry, a finger snap applied to the bottom of the foot, or traditionally, a light slap on the buttocks. But the job of severing the child from the mother is not yet finished. The umbilical cord, which has joined the two together, must be cut, or in an emergency, tied twice. There are no pain nerves. There are no pain nerves in the cord. So there's no pain for either the baby or the mother. The third and final stage of labor occurs with the delivery of the placenta. It is easily delivered within 5 or 10 minutes after the baby's birth. And that is how it has come to be called the afterbirth. There are no pain nerves in the cord, so there's no pain for baby or mom. Third stage of labor occurs with the delivery of placenta, which is called it is easily delivered within 5-10 minutes. That is how it has come to be called the afterbirth. So the third and final stage of labor equals the delivery of the placenta. Don't worry about voluntary, involuntary. In this case, you just have to know that another word for it is the afterbirth. Why is it called the afterbirth? Because it's after the baby was born. So like I said, I will absolutely go over this. We have about 20 minutes. Let me go through the next half of this class in doing a 5-minute little thing with the class. And then once I get you guys started with that activity and that assignment, I can go back with anybody either in front of me or on Zoom who needs some help. I can reread whatever you need me to reread, okay? So let's pause there. So if it's completed for any of you guys who you have it all done, you change the color and submit that now. If not, just wait on me for a little bit longer, okay? Okay, so we've kind of talked a little bit, right, about the menstrual cycle. So if you look here, this is a kind of a good layout. Now, sometimes when I go over this, it's like every year, obviously minus this year, I have a lot of people who are like, oh, why do I have to learn this? Like, I don't want to learn this. This doesn't pertain to me. You know, like a lot of the guys are like, I don't want it. I don't want this. I don't want this. But this is really important. Okay. And it's really important because there are people that are sexually active that might not be being smart and having unprotected sex. That's not smart. And at your ages in high school, females' bodies alone are already trying to figure stuff out. Same thing with guys, right? Still trying to figure stuff out. So I'm going to go over the cycle with you. But just so you guys know, this is so off for people in high school. So what is the cycle? If you look at these numbers, it goes all the way around to 28. The number 28 is not necessarily every person's number. And I'm going to explain how to figure that out. Day 1 means the first day of a female's period when they bleed. So how can you tell what your number is? Starting on that first day of your period, count. Let's say your period might be 3 days, it might be 6 days, it might be 10 days. Doesn't matter. Keep counting all the way until you get your period again that next month. And then subtract the day before. That's your number. So if you have your period on day 1, and then you have it, and then you stop having it, then you keep going. The day before you get your period again, that's your number, and that is your cycle. Okay, why am I saying this? Because there's something called ovulation. Does anybody know what the word ovulation is?
It's when like the female eggs drop down and they wait for...
Not drop down, but you are correct. When the egg, right, or ovum releases from the ovary. When an egg is released from the ovary, now there's an egg there in the fallopian tube. Guess what? That's the only time a girl can get pregnant. That's the only time a girl can get pregnant. You can't get pregnant if there's no egg. Remember how we talked about sperm and they have that long journey? Well, the sperm can get all the way up to the fallopian tubes, but if there's nothing there for it to fertilize, guess what? There's no pregnancy. So why is it important for females who go through this? important to know your cycle? Because you need to know your cycle number so you can know when you're ovulating. Because that's the highest chances, time-wise, where you can become pregnant if you're having stupid unprotected sex. And please always note, the only 100% way to make sure that you either don't get pregnant or get somebody pregnant is to not have sex. I mean, that's the only 100% way, because even if you're being smart, wearing a condom or using birth control, there's still a chance. There's still a chance. So you take your number, let's just say it's 28, because here's the example here, and you subtract the number 14. So how do you know when you're ovulating? You take the number in the cycle, your cycle, and you subtract 14. Now in this case, because I'm using 28, 28 minus 14 is 14, right? And if you remember when we talked about fertilization, the egg has about a window of about 24 hours, right? To become fertilized. And every time I say that, I always get, usually guys, right? And they're like, what? You're telling me that within one full month, a girl can only get pregnant one day? So then they'll just not, have sex during that time, right? A couple of things there. Number one, about 24 hours, could be a little longer. Two, you're in high school, your bodies are young, and your bodies are still trying to figure it out. Sometimes girls your age can still ovulate twice in a month, and it's hard to tell. Three, sperm. Anyone remember how long sperm can last in the female?
Like up till 5 days.
Yeah, it's the average is 2 to 3 days. Remember, 48 to 72 hours, but you are correct. It can last even up to 5 or 6 or 7 days. So let's say people are being very responsible, but they still want to have unprotected sex, which is not very responsible. So they say, you know what? I'm just going to have sex on day 10. That gives me 4 days, or even day 9. That gives me so much time. I'm not going to be ovulating, so it's fine. Okay? They have sex on day 10. 1, 2, 3, 4 days later, boop, they ovulate, an egg is released in their body. Could there still be sperm around?
Yeah.
Yes, there can. Okay, and I've heard some stories, been here for 10 years, and I've heard some crazy stories. Actually, a really good friend of mine used the morning after pill and the pulling out method, which I'm still shocked nobody asked that question yet on the anonymous questions. Does pulling out work? I always get that question every year, but I haven't gotten that question yet. Who knows? Maybe one of you guys will ask that question. Okay, so in listening to what I've been talking about over the last few moments, that will help you for your next assignment. What is your next assignment? You are going to go on to Schoology and open the second assignment for today called the menstrual cycle. You're going to see that same picture with a little bit of a reading, and you're going to answer the questions that follow it. So that's what you're going to be doing today for the rest of class. Seeing as though it is 11:46, I'll ask you guys to stay for about 5 minutes to complete that. If obviously I'll let you guys go in a few, and obviously if you're not done, get that done. At this time now, before I open it up to answering some of your questions from the childbirth and getting those answers in for some of you guys, does anyone have any questions?